Karen bulldozed my luxury car using HOA rules. Shame I'm not in their association. Have you ever parked your car, minding your own business, only to find it crushed under the weight of someone else's ego? That's exactly what happened to Marcus Reed, a man whose prized $400,000 Aston Martin was reduced to scrap metal by a woman named Karen, who wielded homeowners association rules like a sledgehammer. Except Marcus didn't even live in her neighborhood. Marcus had spent years building his dream life in a quiet, upscale suburb just outside Phoenix. His home, a sleek modern build on a half-acre lot, sat on a rare parcel not governed by the nearby Mystic Pines Homeowners Association. When he bought the property, he'd chosen it specifically to avoid the suffocating grip of HOA regulations. No rules about grass height, no fines for unapproved mailbox colors, just freedom. His pride and joy was his 2023 Aston Martin DB11, a midnight blue masterpiece he'd saved for a decade to own. He parked it in his driveway, where it gleamed under the Arizona sun, a symbol of his hard work as a tech entrepreneur. But to Karen Whitaker, the Mystic Pines HOA president, that car was an eyesore that didn't fit her vision of community standards. Karen was the kind of person who thrived on control. As HOA president, she patrolled the neighborhood with a clipboard, noting infractions like untrimmed hedges or cars parked a fraction too long on the street. Her reign was infamous. She'd once fined a family for planting petunias instead of approved marigolds, claiming they clashed with the aesthetic. But Marcus's property, just beyond the HOA's jurisdiction, was a thorn in her side. His modern home, with its sharp angles and glass walls, stood out against the cookie-cutter colonials of Mystic Pines. Worse, his Aston Martin, often parked prominently in his driveway, seemed to taunt her authority. Karen had sent letters demanding he join the HOA voluntarily, citing community cohesion. Marcus politely declined every time, unaware that Karen was plotting something far worse. One scorching July morning, Marcus woke to the sound of grinding metal. He rushed outside to a nightmare. A bulldozer was crushing his Aston Martin into a mangled heap. Karen stood nearby, arms crossed, directing the operator like a general commanding a siege. "This vehicle violates community standards," she declared, waving a copy of the Mystic Pines CC and RS. "It's been parked here too long, and it's unsightly." Marcus was stunned. "I'm not in your HOA," he shouted, his voice cracking with disbelief. Karen smirked. "Your property line extends into our jurisdiction," she said, pointing to a survey she'd commissioned. "That driveway is technically ours, and we're enforcing our rules." Marcus's heart sank as he watched his car, his dream, reduced to rubble. The bulldozer's operator, a nervous young man named Jake, hesitated but followed Karen's orders, later admitting he thought she had the authority. Marcus demanded answers, but Karen doubled down, citing a vague HOA rule about unsightly vehicles, and claiming his car was a public nuisance. She'd hired the bulldozer with HOA funds, arguing it was a necessary enforcement action. Marcus, reeling, called the police, but they treated it as a civil matter, leaving him to face Karen's smug triumph alone. The truth began to unravel when Marcus hired a lawyer, Sarah Nguyen, a sharp property law expert with a knack for dismantling overzealous HOAs. Sarah dug into the Mystic Pines governing documents and discovered Karen's survey was a sham. Marcus's property was entirely outside the HOA's boundaries, confirmed by county records. The driveway was his, free and clear. Karen had overstepped, fabricating a boundary dispute to justify her vendetta. But there was more. Sarah uncovered that Karen had been skimming HOA funds for personal expenses, lavish dinners, a new patio for her own home, while claiming they were for community upkeep. The bulldozer stunt was her boldest move yet, a power play to assert dominance over Marcus and scare others into compliance. Sarah also found an unexpected ally. Linda, a retired surveyor and Mystic Pines resident who'd clashed with Karen over a fence dispute. Linda had kept meticulous records of the neighborhood's true boundaries, which she'd surveyed herself years ago. She revealed that Karen had doctored the HOA's maps to encroach on non-members' properties, hoping to strong-arm them into joining. Linda's evidence was a bombshell, turning Karen's narrative on its head. "I knew she was a bully," Linda said, her voice trembling with anger. But destroying a man's car? That's evil. Her testimony gave Marcus's case the emotional weight it needed, painting Karen as a tyrant who'd weaponized HOA rules for personal gain. The confrontation came at a packed HOA meeting, where Marcus and Sarah presented their case. The room buzzed with tension as residents, tired of Karen's iron fist, listened intently. Sarah projected Linda's survey maps on a screen, exposing Karen's fraud. Marcus spoke next, his voice steady but raw. "This wasn't just about a car," he said, holding up a photo of his crushed Aston Martin. "This was about someone thinking they could control me, my property, my life, because they had power and I didn't play their game." Gasps rippled through the crowd as he detailed the car's $400,000 value and Karen's misuse of HOA funds. Jake, the bulldozer operator, took the floor unexpectedly, confessing he'd been misled by Karen's claims of authority. "I thought it was legal," he said, head bowed. "I'm sorry." Karen's defense crumbled. She stammered, claiming she acted for the community. But her excuses rang hollow. Residents began shouting questions about the HOA's finances, demanding transparency. One woman, a single mother fined repeatedly for minor infractions, stood up and called Karen a petty dictator. The room erupted in agreement, and Karen's face flushed crimson. Within days, the HOA board voted to remove her as president, and Marcus filed a lawsuit against her personally for property damage and fraud. The court ruled in his favor, ordering Karen to pay $450,000 in damages, including the car's value and legal fees. Her financial ruin was sealed when the HOA sued her for misusing funds, uncovering thousands in unauthorized expenses. Karen's home went into foreclosure, and she moved away, her reputation in tatters. Marcus's victory wasn't just about the money. He used the settlement to buy a new Aston Martin, this time parking it in a fortified garage he built to spite Karen's memory. The Mystic Pines HOA rewrote its bylaws, limiting board powers and requiring transparency to prevent another Karen. Linda became the new HOA president, her no-nonsense fairness restoring trust. Marcus, once an outsider, found himself embraced by neighbors who'd been too afraid to challenge Karen's reign. "You stood up to her," Linda told him. "That's what we needed." This story isn't just about a car or a vindictive neighbor, it's about standing up to those who abuse power and think rules don't apply to them. Marcus's fight reminds us that justice can prevail when truth and courage collide with arrogance. So what do you think? Was Marcus right to take on Karen's tyranny, or should he have tried to compromise? Share your thoughts. Where do you stand on the line between community rules and personal freedom?